Welcome to Risk Roundup. As we witness the changes in the AI trends that helps set a benchmark for the following year, it is very important to understand the impact it has on the industries. And this is especially relevant today when neither a software nor a hardware, irrespective of industries, is developed without getting integrated with an AI layer. So as AI becomes an integral part of industry infrastructure, industries are not only working to incorporate AI into their products and services, but rather it is exploring how to fundamentally transform industries. So to understand the AI trends further, I'm delighted to welcome Devin Krotman to Risk Roundup. Devin is the director at XPrize and he's based in the United States. Welcome, Devin. We're honored to have you on Risk Roundup.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here virtually.
Wonderful, Kevin. So, where do you think is AI taking us? You at XPrize, you are exposed to all these competitions, and you're working with all these industries, and you are trying to solve the big problems, that you see, the industries, are facing. So, based on those observations and that interaction that you have with the industries, where do you see the AI trends, taking us?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the answer is it's very broad. I mean, AI can take us anywhere where we want to go, and I think that's why it's such an interesting time to be alive right now. If you look at the data revolution that we've gone through in the last half decade to full decade, this is what has made AI so strong. So it's up to us as humans to kind of figure out where we want AI to take us. We're at this interesting intersection where it can transform enterprise, but also a lot of the social good work that we're doing. So I think that's a broad answer, but I also think it's the right answer. I think the path for AI is it's unclear, but that's because there's so many opportunities for it at this time.
Yes, absolutely. There are many, many opportunities, and it's like the proverb: the sky is the limit. There are plenty, pathways that we can take. So I mean, there is no one set path. Each and every business, rather each and every individual, they have the freedom to imagine, to come up with new ways of doing things. So as you at XPrize, interact with all these organizations, and you see the competitions, and you see all the nature of the problems that are being solved, where do you see the business decision makers mind on, where do they face the biggest problems, and where their mindset is, or where their efforts are in trying to solve the problems that they are facing individually and collectively?
Yeah, I think for business leaders, but more broadly, like it's understanding the power of AI. And I think this gets back to the term that I heard of like 6 months ago, is this term AI literacy, right? So we use AI as a society, we use that term very broadly, and that can be okay sometimes, but I think it can also be a lazy term. So I think the biggest challenge, not only for business leaders, but like the general public, is to understand what is AI, all right? And what are the subfields of AI? And then understanding that will allow you to understand, okay, well, how can AI transform my business, whatever industry you may be in, or how can AI be used to tackle a specific humanitarian challenge? I think oftentimes through the media we get lazy when we use the term AI, and we either paint it very broadly, oh, it's a bad thing, or it's a great thing, it can solve everything. And the truth is, we need to be AI literate, and by we I mean everyone. So, and then from there we can figure out how to solve these problems.
Very true. No, that's an excellent point, because everyone needs to be AI literate, right? I mean, without understanding what AI is, what power it brings us, where it can take us, what kind of problems it can help us solve, we cannot target that, because AI is, the data. I mean, I'm taking the conversation a little bit towards the data, because the data that we are seeing, that is in the public domain, social media, and all these large data sets that are available, that is common to everyone. So each and every business, they have access to that data, or they have, a way to get those data sets. But it is at the end of the day what they do with those data sets, where they try to, what kind of intelligence they want to gather from, to access from that, and that could help them, redesign, or come up with the new ways of doing things, like establish entirely new products, or new way of doing services, or new business models. So all that is up to the businesses. So it's the way they imagine. So each and every, I mean, when we look at the AI transformation that could happen across businesses, even within the same industry, it would be very different. It's not going to be the same across all the businesses, even in the same industry, irrespective of whether it's the healthcare industry or aerospace industry or any energy industry, any industry. So as all this, as you, I mean, I'm coming back to your, heart of the services, that, or the heart of the company that you have, is the competition, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm coming back to that, that as you see these competitive, challenges, to solve the problems, which problems do you, that excites you most as you work with all these industries, which problems that they are trying to solve? Because energy industry, they can solve big problems if they really want to, like solving this climate crisis. Or if you look at healthcare, they can solve big problem of how to make the healthcare affordable for everyone. How can we create doctors, AI doctors, that would be almost free to everyone, for the basic, healthcare, maybe for surgeries and all that, then eventually they'll be able to go there. But are these the kind of problems you see them, thinking about?
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, but also from the XPrize perspective, the problems that we're most interested in are the ones related to humans. At the end of the day, we're all humans, right? And there's a lot of grand challenges facing humanity. And in particular, you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which are due in 10 years from now. And we're far away from accomplishing a lot of those goals. So I think about education as a basic right. I think about the climate crisis. A lot of those issues are tied to the SDGs. So for us at XPrize, we believe the power of technology, in particular the subfields of AI, and then the data revolution. I think that is the path towards solving some of these challenges that we believe are pertinent. And we believe that's going to be done not through XPrize itself, but through the people that compete in our competitions. Because the untapped potential of the crowd is what revolutionizes and galvanizes really great ideas. So that's what we're most excited about, and that's what is core to our mission.
Great. So these competitors that work with XPrize, are they the students? Are they businesses? Or who is competing on your platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is everyone. So it could be individuals, it could be enterprises, it could be startups, it could be universities, it could be students at universities, it could be high school students. We don't discriminate when it comes to who wants to compete in our competitions.
So XPrize identifies, as a company, a problem that they want to solve, and then they launch the competition. They open it up for everyone, and everyone, whoever is interested, they can come and take part in that, solve the problem. What happens then?
Right. So every competition is different, but what we try to focus on is create, and I think this is where XPrize is different than other. So what XPrize does is not singularly unique to the rest of the world. Other organizations out there run competitions or run, you look at Kaggle and other places like that. I think what XPrize is unique, and what this gets back to your question, is we run big, complex competitions where we can evaluate the teams. So what we do is we create a framework where we ask teams to compete, and then we create a field test per se to evaluate those teams and to validate the work that they're doing. So I can contextualize this a little bit if that helps. So I look back to our Global Learning XPrize, which was about open source education that could take children in remote parts of the world from zero in terms of literacy, numeracy, and writing to basic levels of education over the course of 15 months. So what XPrize did is we picked 5 finalists. Our judges picked 5 finalists that would go into the field being Tanzania, and we deployed a 15-month field test there with real children and did a pre-test and an end-line test, and we measured the learning gains. And that's not only how we evaluated the competition, but that's also how we validated how important this competition was to the rest of the world.
Yes, no, that is amazing. Congratulations on that. That is a very important initiative, because if you are able to take education to each and every child in Africa or in Middle East or Asia, everywhere in the world, then imagine the kind of brain power we'll be able to develop just by exposing them to this education, to the information that is available to everyone. That would be amazing. So I'm really glad that you're working on that. As far as cybersecurity goes, do you have you done any competition on cybersecurity?
No, we haven't. That's a great question. At one point, we were designing a cybersecurity prize, but we were never able to get it off the ground.
Was there any technical reason, or you just could not find competitors or something like that?
No, I mean, I think XPrize is a nonprofit, so all the work that we do needs to be funded. So every competition we run is funded by our sponsors, and we find different sponsors. So that's why it can take a while to get these prizes up and running. And for this one, I think this was before I started XPrize, but my understanding is that it was difficult to find the right sponsor to get it off the ground.
No, I understand totally. These efforts take time. So, what is your where do you see XPrize going in the coming years? I mean, you said it's nonprofit and your focus is, I understand, based on what you're doing, but where is it, planning to go in the coming years, especially, with the focus on AI and the transformation across industries?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways to look at that. I mean, XPrize is going to continue to scale and build out our incentivized competition work, but also our thought leadership work. So when it comes to designing competitions, when it comes to developing roadmaps for what the future might look like, so impact maps is what we call them. We want to continue to do that work across a variety of domains, specifically as it relates to exploration and humanity. So focusing on the sustainable development goals and figuring out how we can solve the climate crisis, how we can provide education to the rest of the world, how we can explore our oceans. All of those things fall under XPrize's mission. To the AI point, we believe, and I think most people would agree, that AI is embedded in everything we do in our daily lives, but it's also embedded in everything we do at XPrize. So while we are running an AI XPrize right now, I think our goal going forward is to have AI embedded in all of our competitions. And AI may end up being a solution to solving some of those competitions.
No, that's wonderful. So the point that you made about the impact map, that is, most essential to understand, right? I mean, where we are going and how we are going to transform the nations and the human species, and how we will be able to help the countries to take a step forward in making some positive, constructive transformation across their nation. So as you work with all these different countries, because the competitors must be coming from all different countries, and the problems that you are solving, that has impact, not just on one country, but broadly on all countries. So based on the assessment that you have done about the impact maps, where do you see the biggest impact based on the efforts that you have launched?
Um, Sorry, can you help me understand that question a little bit more? I'm not sure I follow.
As you are not focusing only on one problem, you're focusing on many problems, and you are inviting competitors from all parts of the world, right? Is based on what I understand
Correct.
now. Based on the solutions that emerges and the solutions that are being implemented across nations, what is the impact map that you see? Where do you see the biggest impact? Which countries, or which region of the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, to be honest. But to be fully honest, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that. And I don't think there is one right or wrong answer in terms of where we see the greatest impact. I think it really is a case by case basis. So if we launch an impact map about we've done an impact map on the future of housing and what that looks like, right? What does the future of housing look like in 10, 15, 20 years? I mean, that's a sort of topic that galvanizes a certain population, right? People in urban areas who feel that the housing crisis is getting out of control. So there's a lot of passionate people about that. But then when we talk about our impact map as it relates to the future of food, that's going to talk to a different population, right? So I think it's, I don't mean to give you a non-answer, but in this case, I can't give you a direct answer because I think it's a case by case basis.
Sure, no, I understand that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your organization. Where do you see it going? And based on the efforts that you are making and your strategic plan, what would you like to tell our global viewers and listeners, especially the young, brilliant minds who are, really AI literate, I would say, rather, than computer literate, but AI literate, and who can help develop all these solutions to the problems that we are facing all across nations, and in fact for the future of the humanity. So what would you like to tell them, in especially as you would like to invite them to compete on XPrize, or you would like them to collaborate, or you would like them to help you come up with some solutions to the problems that XPrize is trying to solve?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I always think about a quote from our founder, Peter Diamandis. He always says, "The day before a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea." So we encourage anyone in the world, including your population, to look at the prizes that XPrize launches. And even if you're not an expert in that field, if you have an idea, come and compete, because that is how these problems get solved. So if you look at the first flight across the Atlantic that Charles Lindbergh did. Charles Lindbergh was not an aviation expert per se. He was doing local flights in the Midwest to deliver mail, right? But he was the one to win that competition. So we take that old school model and apply it to today's challenges, and we focus on technology. So my message would be the youth of today, they have the brain power. They have this untapped potential that we are trying to tap into to solve these challenges that are facing us today, that are ever present, specifically the climate issue.
Great, wonderful. So thank you so much, Devin, for participating in Risk Roundup today. We appreciate your thoughtful insight on the AI industry trends, and especially the role that XPrize is playing in trying to solve the big complex problems facing humanity. So even if a single individual or entity can understand the AI trends and disruption based on the discussion we had today and gets motivated to take part in the competitions that XPrize is coordinating, then this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. It was a great opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Devin. So Risk Roundup, a global initiative launched by Risk Group, is a security risk reporting for risk emerging from existing and emerging technologies, technology convergence and transformation happening across cyberspace, aquaspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to the management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. And it is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information, please go to riskgroupllc.com and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.